Good day, gorgeous people. It's been a little while since I've updated you with what I have been reading. I don't think I even did a wrap up for November. We're nearly at the end of December, so this is going to be like November, December wrap up, kind of. Before we get into the video, I really wanted to thank you guys so much. I posted a video, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now, about our IVF experience and the failure of it. And we did an embryo transfer that didn't work. So I was explaining what happened, and also just the fact that we're going to be a little family of 3. And just the outpouring of love that I felt from you guys. I did not expect, well, I knew that you guys were all wonderful people, but I just felt like hugged. I felt like you guys were reaching through your computers and hugging me. I really appreciated it. So many of you opened up about your own infertility journey and your own experiences. And many of you talked about you growing up as an only child. That really helped me. And many of you opened up about you having an only child and how you navigate that. And I just, thank you. Thank you. I felt hugged, and I'm sending you a hug right back. Okay, so let's dive into the wrap up. Shall we just get the DNFs out of the way? I did not finish these books. That's what DNF stands for, in case you were wondering. First, we will talk about The Children's Blizzard by Melanie Benjamin. I didn't finish it. I started listening to it on audio and it just wasn't working for me. This is about a blizzard that occurred in 1888. This actually happened in the plains. In the morning of that fateful day of January 12th, 1888, it was a beautiful day, like so beautiful that I don't think they needed to bundle up. The children went to school, and then a blizzard broke out. Now, some school teachers sent the kids home to try and beat the blizzard, and others tried to stay in place. And it's about the events of this blizzard. If I'm being honest, I was just a little bit bored. Obviously, I wanted all the children to survive. That was not it. I can be heartless in the sense of not liking romance, but I'm not like actually heartless in that way. I just found the characters not incredibly engaging. I wasn't connecting with them, and I felt like the focus was exclusively about the blizzard, and there wasn't enough dynamics going on in the characters' lives. They felt like a means to an end for the writer to talk about a blizzard, and that just feels unrealistic to me, so I just DNF'd it. It just wasn't working for me. Similarly, I DNF'd The Last Train to London by Meg Waite Clayton. This is a World War II historical fiction book about a boy who is trying to get away from, it's not Nazi Germany, it's somewhere else, Austria, and a woman who does that essentially. Her entire life, she is devoted to getting Jewish children out of Nazi-occupied places. And I found this to be very, again, the characters weren't fleshed out and didn't feel real. And so I kind of found myself to be a little bored. And the storyline itself, that's not a boring storyline. So if I'm bored in that situation, I just think that I'm not going to invest that much time, like 400 pages, you know? And here's where half of you are going to unsubscribe from my channel. I'm almost afraid to say I DNF'd The Pillars of the Earth. I couldn't do it. I didn't like it. What in the world? Okay, so everyone told me this is the most riveting book. The premise itself sounds boring. It's about people building a cathedral, and I found that it was boring. I was not interested. This is about a family who build a cathedral. And I found a lot of it really annoying. The main character I found to be exclusively annoying. I did not like him. And I just could not connect, and there was no way in hell I was going to read all of this. I am also, you'll see in a future unhaul, I'm getting rid of the whole series. I think I bought 3 in the series. So I'm just kind of done with Ken Follett. I did not connect with his writing in any way, shape, or form. Don't hate me. Shall we move on to the books that I read, actually finished? This next one was our November book club book for the Getting Hygge with It Patreon group, and I really enjoyed it. This was Secrets of a Charmed Life by Susan Meissner. I gave this 4 stars. I believe this is one of Susan Meissner's earlier books, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I will say you could tell that it was an earlier book. Like, I did not feel connected the same way that I wanted to. There were some loose ends, and so there was that. However, I found the storyline itself to be so riveting that I was hooked, and I was flipping the pages. So this follows a couple of sisters in World War II. They are sent to the countryside. Julia is quite young. I think she's like 8. And then our main character, Emmy, is 15, and she is like a fashionista, wants to learn how to design, wants to work in the fashion industry. But she's not old enough to stay back in London when the bombs are meant to start dropping on London. And so they are sent to the countryside, to this wonderful woman's home, and she takes them in. You also meet a woman in present day Oxford, England. She is meeting an elderly woman named Isabel McFarland, and she's meeting her to interview her about her experience during the Blitz. She is one of the last surviving people who lived through the Blitz, and she wants to see what that experience was like. Of course, these 2 storylines interlink, and I really enjoy that. I wouldn't say it was my favorite Susan Meissner, but it was still a 4-star. Like, I just think that she's a brilliant writer, and I really love her historical fiction so much. She always makes these characters, deal with something traumatizing or big and dramatic in their personal lives, and then also throws a big and dramatic instance in history and links the 2. And I just think that's wonderful, and I really appreciate the layers, I guess, of plot. And I really like the characters usually, although I did find Emmy annoying at times and really hard on her mother. In any case, I gave it 4 stars. Would recommend that one. Oh, we've got a 2-star World War II fiction book that I feel like many people really, really loved. This is Codename Hélène by Ariel Lahone. Lahone? I think that's how you say her name. This is about a woman in France. She is actually Australian, but she is living in France. She is working for the resistance and really funding the resistance in a major way. She is giving food and shelter and ammunition to the French resistance, trying to fight against the Nazis who have now occupied France. You also go backward and forwards in time. You go back in time to her, not first living in France, but she's still somewhat new and meeting the love of her life. And it was very heavy on the romance. And you guys know me, again, no heart, except I do want children to live. I just found that to be very frustrating. I also found the reason that I ended up giving this 2 stars is this woman at the very beginning. You meet her in her full-blown French resistance moment. She is a strong woman, and I appreciate that she's a strong woman. But we meet her on a plane and she is meant to jump out of the plane to land and offer, her services and help to the French resistance. She misses her moment to land and jump out of the plane so that she can apply lipstick, and then she jumps out. And I think that it was meant to be written as this like badass moment for her. And for me, I feel like a lot of the time people can write World War II historical fiction where they write these characters, female or male, that are almost borderline superheroes. And I actually find that to be disrespectful to people who lived through World War II. I find it distasteful that, people were living and dying, and it was not a wonderful situation to be in. It was really not a wonderful situation to be in. And who in their right mind would risk the pilot who's dropping you off and has to go off to hopefully survive and not be shot down, who would risk that to apply lipstick? I just repeatedly found it to be disrespectful to my own mind. And I think it does a disservice to the veterans of World War II and the people who survived World War II, who were citizens and lived through one of the most horrible times in history. So no, for me, I don't think I'll be reading any more Ariel Lawhome because I was really disappointed. Oh, another unpopular opinion. Oh my gosh. Whew. Next, I read The Searcher by Tana French. This is the second Tana French that I read this year. I really enjoyed it. I didn't love it as much as The Witch Elm, but I thought it was very, very good. This is about a retired police officer. He is American, but he has moved to Ireland to retire. He's going to be fixing up an old house, and that's how he wants to spend his days. He wants to go down to the pub and hang out with the guys and just relax a little bit. He is also kind of running from a hard past of his own. He had a divorce that was very hard on him, so he just wants a fresh start. And then a boy who lives in the neighborhood starts coming by a lot and wants his help. He realizes that this man was a police officer, and this boy's brother has gone missing. And he's very worried about his brother, who's very close to his brother, and he's worried that something terrible has happened. And so this police officer kind of reluctantly gets involved. I really did enjoy this. The police officer himself was kind of a little bit grumpy, but also kind. You could tell that there was this underlayer of kindness. I really enjoyed his friendship with this kid. And, Tana French did it again for me. I gave it 4 stars, and I can't wait. Like, I really hope that in 2022, I'll be able to start reading the Dublin Murder Squad series. That's what she's best known for, but I've only read her standalone so far. So I'm starting my introduction to her a little bit strangely, but that's okay. That's fine. Shall we move into all of the Christmassy books that I have read thus far? I'm going to start with the book that made me want to scream. Genuinely hated this book so much. This is Christmas at Carnton by Tamara Alexander. This is a Civil War book. We follow a character in the South. Her name is Aletta. She is recently widowed. She has a young son, and she is pregnant. And she's really struggling to survive. She's doing everything she can to get work. She's being fired left, right, and center. And she hears of an opportunity at Carnton to go and help with baking and whatnot, to help with a fundraiser that they're creating for the war to raise funds for the men. There is also a man who is kind of on leave, on sick leave. He was injured in the war, and he's there to, you know, cheer the women on and give them someone to celebrate in this situation. I found this really upsetting. It was a 1-star read for me. This, I think, really celebrates the South at a time that it shouldn't be celebrated. Now, I will say there was only one Black character in the story, and she was written horribly. She's written as a very content Black slave who is also helping to, you know, contribute to the cause of the war on the South Side in whatever way she can. She is written to be someone who is completely happy in her situation, and it's just improper. I just found it to be so improper. There are only 2 moments in this book where the main character references slavery as being a bad thing. That's it. The rest of it is like these poor men who are fighting for the South, and the poor people left behind. It was insulting in so many ways. I cannot believe that this is also considered Christian fiction. Wowza. Christian fiction? Yeah. I've never read Christian fiction before, I will say, but this insulted me to my core, and I don't think it should have been published. So, 1 star, probably the worst book I've read this year. It was one of those things, like, I do DNF books, but I didn't. Have you ever been in a situation where you're like, where you're just like, is this gonna get worse? Like, where you can't take your eyes away from what in the world is going on, and you're just flipping the pages going, is this for real? That's how I felt reading this book. So that's why I ended up finishing it. Editing April here. I forgot to mention something else I wanted to rant about that book. So all of the Southern characters are really almost sickly sweet, kind to this enslaved woman. The only person who is rude to this enslaved Black woman is from the North. And that was another issue that I found. I was just like, what picture are you trying to paint here? Because it's the most inaccurate picture on earth. I'm still mad. Like, I'm editing. It's a couple of days later since I filmed that. I'm editing, and I'm still filled with rage. End rant. Ooh, next up, I read a lovely book that I intend to read again for sure. It's The Nutcracker by E.T.A. Hoffman. Oh my goodness, I really liked this. Victoria, from What Victoria Read, sent this to me last year for Christmas, and it's delightfully illustrated. It is a beautiful book, and I feel like most people know the tale of the Nutcracker via the ballet. That at least was the case for me. And the book is very different from the ballet, I will say. And it's funny because there was actually this cartoon that I used to watch a lot, an animated film called The Nutcracker Prince with Megan Follows, who narrated for Clara. And that little animated video was much closer in accuracy to the actual book than anything else. And yeah, it made me want to go back and watch that. I remember watching that a lot as a kid. In any case, absolutely delightful, super quick read. I think I read it in one sitting or a couple of sittings. It was very short and sweet and just so lovely. I really love this storyline. I'm not going to go into it because everybody knows what the Nutcracker is. Everybody's seen the ballet. So I was thrilled. Thank you again, Victoria, for that. It was such a treat. And I think it was the first Christmassy book that I had read this year. So it it just was just magical for me. I think I mentioned that I gave that 4 stars. If I didn't, I gave it 4 stars. I also read Hercule Poirot's Christmas by Agatha Christie. This is about a family that get together for Christmas, and there's a lot of animosity in this family, okay? There are brothers who have gone away for a long time and are coming back for Christmas. Not all of the family members are thrilled about that. There is a patriarch in here who is just a kind of nasty piece of work and has gathered all of these people together for Christmas. Unfortunately for him, on Christmas Eve, there is a crash, boom, smash sound, and this patriarch is found killed with his throat is slit. And obviously one of the family members or one of the people who work for the house must have killed him, and you find out the story and what happened to this guy. I will say I gave this 3 stars. It was enjoyable, but I wouldn't say it was Christmassy. Like, other than the fact that it takes place on Christmas Eve, I didn't feel it was nearly atmospheric as it could have been. There's no mention of like a Christmas tree or, I don't know, just any of the standard Christmas things. There was no even reference to like snow or anything. So it was fun. I don't think I would ever reread this at Christmas because it wasn't atmospheric enough. But I'm glad to have said that I have read it. Moving along, I started reading a Christmas series that, like, I would never have thought that I would pick it up. It sounded kind of romancy, and it was kind of romancy. So maybe I have a heart after all, at times. Maybe only at Christmas? Is that it? So I read book 1 and 2 of Lady Osboldson's Christmas Chronicles. The first is The Christmas Goose, and the second is The Lost Carols? The Missing Christmas Carols. So Lady, I can't say her last name. I'm so terrible. I keep looking down at my computer here. Lady Osbaldstones. Anyway, she is an elderly woman who lives in, I believe, England, in a small town in England, and she is a bit of a matchmaker. That's her thing in the world. And she has these grandchildren who come to visit earlier in the Christmas season, and then the whole family is going to come to her for Christmas. But it always takes place just before, and in both situations, in both books, the grandkids come. And it's very, very sweet. So this woman always has some sort of mystery that she gets involved with. In the first book, the Christmas geese have suddenly vanished and she needs to find them, and she gets her grandkids involved. In the second, the book of Christmas carols have vanished and everybody needs to gather together to find them. And it's just really comforting, really warm, heartwarming for sure. And in the midst of this, she somehow matches couples up. So there's always romance, but it's not in your face in a, I don't know, in an annoying way. I sometimes find romance to be annoying. So it's just lovely. It was just lovely. There are, I think, so far 4 in the series. I've been listening to them on audio, and I think I'll leave the next 2 for next year, just so that I have something to look forward to. But really enjoyed them both. I think I gave them both 4 stars. Very, very lovely. I did like the first book better than the second, but they were both good. And last but not least, I read The Walnut Tree, which is apparently in the midst of a series. This is written by Charles Todd, and this is book 4.5 of the Bess Crawford series. And I think the Bess Crawford series follows a nurse during World War I. So in this book, we follow a very wealthy woman named Lady Elspeth. She has been taken in by her cousins. Her father has passed away, and her cousins have taken her under their wing. And war comes to England, and she has kind of fallen in love with someone and who is at war, and she's really devastated that he's gone and worried about him. And so she decides to secretly sign up to become a nurse. She hasn't asked permission of her cousin, her elderly cousin, who's kind of in charge of her. She just does it. And it is about her experience. I really did enjoy this. So much better. Oh my goodness. I read The Christmas at Carnation or at Carrington or whatever first, and then moved into The Walnut Tree, and I was like, oh, thank goodness. So I ended up giving this 3 stars because I did find myself kind of lost at moments reading this, and that just might be me being busy in my life. I listened to it on audio, so I don't know, but I did enjoy it, and I wouldn't mind reading more by Charles Todd, that's for sure. And those are all of the books that I have been reading lately. It's a long one because I've been reading a lot. Lots of Christmassy things, which makes me feel very cozy, that's for sure. Let me know in the comments below what you guys have been reading. I hope you guys are doing really well, feeling cozy at this time of year, and I will chat with you very soon. Bye!